If you're somebody that has struggled with squat mobility, or you're dealing with some sort of hip, knee, or ankle issue that is impairing your ability to squat deep, stick around because I'm gonna show you an exact routine that you can use from the comfort of your home, and all you really need is one dumbbell or one kettlebell. So let's hop to it. So the very first thing we're gonna address is our hip mobility, because we need to make sure that our hips, that our pelvis, we can actually dive into what we call the ball and socket. We wanna dive into greater depths of hip flexion, but also we need to work on hip internal rotation. And I'm gonna show you exactly what that is too. Hip internal rotation is where basically, if we drive it forward, and let's go ahead and do that now, we're gonna see that while we bring up our knee, is that when we bring our foot out to the side, is that hip rotation is called internal rotation. So if you do that and you bring your foot out to the side, especially for the right leg, you'll kind of feel like there's something kind of getting trapped. We call that our end range mobility. So what we're gonna do is work on our hip range of motion first, then we're gonna dive into knee and ankle range of motion as well, and then we're gonna put it together by doing what we call an offset, or not an offset squat, but basically a leverage squat where we're using a dumbbell to actually leverage ourselves into a deeper squat. All right, so let's dive into that now. So what we're going to do here is we're gonna get to the floor, and I'm gonna show you exactly what we're gonna do. So from here, we're going to lie on our side, and we're gonna do this on both sides, and just for demonstration, I'm just gonna show you on one side. So the very first thing we're gonna do is we're going to drive basically our knee. So we're gonna straighten out that bottom leg. We're going to drive that knee up, okay, into as much hip flexion to bring our knee to our chest without our pelvis kind of rounding. So we wanna round. So keep our back straight, bring our knee up. And once we're up here, we're going to keep our toes dorsiflexed, so keep our toes cocked, and we're gonna just bring our leg into internal rotation. There are many ways to do this. I'm gonna try to touch the floor as well. But I wanna try to get that ankle to get higher than the knee. We wanna keep our knee at a constant. We don't want our knee kind of going back up and down. We're gonna just keep our knee in this position, bring our heels down, and then bring it up, okay? And so what you might feel is something, again, moving inside that hip socket. And if you touch the bone here, they call it a greater trochanter. We feel that our greater trochanter is moving. We kind of feel it kind of rotating, okay? This is a very healthy thing for the hip. We can even eventually add a band or add a ankle attachment in order to weight that down, but we're really just working on that hip range of motion, okay? Do this for about 10 to 20 repetitions prior to testing out our squat. And if I haven't yet, make sure even before you start these exercises that while you're, before you do these hip warm-ups, is to test out your squat. See how it feels, see what's deficient. If you feel like you can't keep your ankles on the floor, let's say you feel your hip feels a little bit pinchy, then you'll kind of know throughout this video what to use, okay? So go ahead and kind of fast forward and rewind throughout this video, just so you can see the different exercises, all right? So now we're gonna work on hip flexion. So when I bring my body back up, okay, sometimes you can hold onto a ball. I'm just gonna simply, you can either, like if this is too hard, there's a version where you're just supporting yourself with your hand. So let me start with the supported version. This is just called a hip flexion, end range hip flexion. So I'm going to activate my quad on this right side, and I'm going to lift it up. Now what you'll notice here is that the higher I lift, one, your quad is gonna be working, that front thigh. We're also gonna feel the hamstring kind of getting stretched out at the same time. But we're working on getting as much hip range of motion, and very important that we keep our body straight. So I lock out my elbows like that at the top of a dip, and I raise up, because we can cheat this exercise by simply just rounding our back, and you see how much higher I can get. But that's not what we wanna do, because we don't round our back when we squat. So keep our chest straight, lift up. And this is just working the right side for 10 to 20 reps, but go ahead and make sure that you're also finishing off on this side as well, okay? All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to now kind of work on our knee range of motion too. So one of the things I want you to do is we're gonna do a knee controlled articular rotation. So we have our knee range of motion, and we know that our knee can go into full straightening as well as full flexion. And we can always work on that just simply by just thrusting. And I don't mind doing this. This is actually a very effective thing for most people. What we still, at the end of the day, if I go through the straight line view of this camera, is you want to work also on knee internal rotation, so it's called tibial internal rotation, as well as external rotation, okay? So the easiest way you're gonna do this, you're gonna lie down, and there's an enhanced version where you're kind of like sitting up straight, but your hamstrings tension might get in the way. So I'm going to lie down for this exercise, and now I'm going to straighten out my leg, and I'm gonna straighten out my leg and also torque my toe inward towards the groin, and then I'm gonna rotate to the outside, and then I'm gonna keep it to the outside, rotate down, rotate the foot back in towards the groin, and straighten. So we're just rotating externally, going to flexion with external rotation, rotate internal, and rotate out, okay? So if I show you guys from this view here, it kind of looks like this. So we're going to go up, rotate in, we're going to go up, then we're going to rotate out to the side, and then back down. Up, flexion with internal rotation, up, and rotate. And you're going to repeat that going the opposite direction too. So up with external rotation, up with internal rotation, down with internal rotation, and rotate, okay? So you're going to do this for at least 5 each direction. So kind of flip it, going clockwise and counterclockwise. The next exercise that we're going to do is we're going to work on our knee flexion range of motion. So you can either get a towel or even a lacrosse ball. Sometimes I'll even just use my forearm or even my wrist. So we're going to work on improving knee flexion. So how we're going to do this one is we're going to now get our wrist inside of our knee crease, and now we're going to drive our knee forward over our toe. So if you're kind of squeezing your forearm, at the same time, if you feel like you've had, like, let's say a stiff knee, it's very hard for you to get like your butt to touch your heel. See, this is range of motion that I have because I work in this all the time. But then if you're not comfortable, you want to get your wrist inside and then really drive your knee over your toe. And one of the best things you can do for a good squat mobility is to get that knee far over your toes and improve tolerance to that. And the contrary to belief, those that say keep your knees behind your toes are probably keeping your knee weak. We want to make sure that we develop tolerance to getting our knee over our toe, and then your squat mobility will improve, okay? Your squat mobility will never improve if you kind of listen to the philosophy of keeping your knees behind your toes. All right, so work into that range. Notice I'm oscillating and I'm keeping that wrist inside. If you can't see, I can switch wrists, where basically my fist is coming out and drive that knee over the toe, okay? Do that for at least 12 to 20 repetitions per knee. Okay, now for the next exercise, we're gonna work on our ankle a bit. So almost a very similar exercise, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off with actually cranking the ankle first. I call these ankle pumps. And even though, let's say this motion here, like if we don't get that adequate dorsiflexion, it's called dorsiflexion in the ankle, then our squat depth is going to be always not adequate, right? So if I go into a squat right now, and let's say your heels come up, or let's say you don't have adequate ankle room to get into a deep squat, then it's not gonna work very well. So what I always start off with is called an ankle crank, where if I sit down, what I wanna do here is I wanna get my ankle over my thigh, and then I'm gonna get my 4 fingers on the top and 1 thumb on the bottom. Then hold the hand against your ankle, and we're gonna crank that ankle pretty hard at about, let's say 12 to 20 repetitions again. We wanna crank it, and we're stabilizing with the other hand. So we don't wanna see like a lot of knee motion. We wanna keep our ankle against our thigh. We wanna simply crank it. So kind of crank it like we're cranking water out of a well. And you wanna hit that end range. You might feel a good stretch at the top. And what this does is that it actually unlocks the talocrural joint and actually gets more motion there too. So I'm going to do this both sides. Notice I'm going a little bit quicker. You can always start off slow. Some people are a little hesitant to go quickly. So just get that motion going. keep it moving, and just unlock the ankle first, okay? Now, after that, now we're gonna grab a weight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a dumbbell, and so I'm gonna show you with the right ankle again. So we're gonna get our, either in this top position, or if your dumbbell's big enough, you can put the handle on the thigh too, and just hold both sides. And now with the weighted, we're gonna call this weighted dorsiflexion. We're gonna drive our knee over our second and third toe. And you can drive it over different toes, but usually you wanna promote that motion where the knee is going directly over the toe. And we're gonna employ at least 12 to 20 repetitions. Ideally is that once your knee gets to a certain point, if your heel starts to lift off, we usually don't want that. For full depth squat, we wanna get our knee over our toe, and then we wanna try to actively try to keep our heel on the floor. If you try to actively keep your heel on the floor, you're actually activating the opposite shin muscles, which is called the tibialis anterior. And that muscle is really important to improve dorsiflexion, but also to keep our heel on the floor as we're going into a deep squat. So we're driving it over, again, 12 to 20 reps per side. And so once we've worked on the 2 exercises for the hip, 2 exercises for the knee, as well as the ankle, now we wanna put it all together. So we wanna grab some sort of weight that is not too stressful for our arms, because we're going to be holding a dumbbell or a kettlebell in front of our body. So we are gonna be loading the shoulder complex. So make sure to not grab a super heavy weight where your shoulder gets tired, but we wanna choose a weight that's heavy enough so that we can go into our deep squat. So I have a 12-pound weight here, and if you need to choose something lighter, you can. But the 12-pound weight, I'm gonna hold that out forward in front of me, and this is going to help counterbalance me, right? So we're gonna call this a dumbbell counterbalance squat. Bringing the dumbbell forward in front of us, and we're gonna dive deep into our squat. And you can choose your squat depth, like sometimes I'll go a little bit more narrow, but I like the squat depth. This is the range of motion that my feet are away from each other is usually what I would do on a barbell squat or any other squat variation. So as you can see, I can kind of rest my my arms against my thigh. But you can see how deep I can kind of go while also keeping my ankles, my knees are in full flexion, and my hips are pretty open. So I spend a lot of time here. I want to try to drive my chest up to the ceiling. That's going to enhance our hip range of motion, because again, we don't want to round our back on our squat, which we don't usually do with weighted squats. So we want to kind of not necessarily force our chest upright, but try to keep our back straight, yeah? And I'm kind of rocking back and forth, side to side. Sometimes I don't mind if my heels or my ankle comes off. So if my ankle comes off, I'm prioritizing more knee and hip mobility, right? But if I am trying to keep my heels on the floor, trying to activate those shin muscles again, trying to force my toes to lift off, okay? You can feel as I lift, you try to lift both toes off while keeping the dumbbell forward in front of you, you can feel your shins activate, okay? And then you can feel that your heels are really flat to the floor, okay? Now, depending on your tolerance, you may not stay here for 30 to 60 seconds like what I'm doing. So maybe it's just 10 to 20 seconds at a time, and then you come back up, give your leg a little rest, get that blood flow back into your legs, and then dive deeper into your squat, okay? And over time, you utilize these 6 exercises and you practice this, sometimes even on a daily basis, you may actually start to see pretty quick results, okay? So I wanna make sure that you guys got a lot of value out of this, so comment below if you got some value. Let me know which exercises are helping you the most, and also let me know any feedback on other things that you want to see. I wanna make sure that this channel becomes one of the best channels for you to enhance your mobility, your strength, but also relieve pain at the same time, all right? So make sure to subscribe, follow, give us feedback, and we will be posting at least 1 video per week, usually on Wednesdays at 7 a.m., but usually oftentimes in the beginning we'll be posting multiple videos just to kind of see what you guys are getting in terms of feedback, all right? So I'll see you guys on the next training. Have a good rest of your day.